That's it. December 19th, 2025. We are in the fourth year and on day 299 since the start of the full inversion. Welcome. I greet you. For today's situation report, we continue to see pressure on Ulaipole with a total of about frontline situation, targeted Ukrainian strikes against Russian energy and sanctions infrastructure, further Western arms deliveries, as well as structural problems in Russia due to a labor shortage and much more. Ukrainian drones attacked a chemical plant in the city of Tolyatti in the Russian region of Samara. According to available reports, the facility is on fire and the blaze is still visible. It is one of the largest chemical companies in Russia and one of the world's most important producers of ammonia. With an annual capacity of about 3 million tons, the facility is strategically important for Russia's chemical and fertilizer production chain and indirectly for the defense industry. According to a survey by the polling institute, INSA, there are new approval ratings for our German politicians. Our chancellor ends up in second to last place, partly because he may still not have fulfilled his tourist campaign promise, just like many others. Alice Weidel is now in fifth place and thus also the most popular female politician, while in first place sits a man who is also known as Armin Laschet's capable twin. Who are we talking about? It's our Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. Why is it important to mention this in the situation report now? Because we are still in an absolute information war, and not only Russia but also other countries are trying to destroy order in Germany to enforce their own interests. While a real war is happening just kilometers away, our Minister of Defense remains very popular, and that's in a nation that is often very divided. That must not be overlooked or underestimated today, especially after recent conscription wars. An example like here, Ukraine's defense industry, working with Germany, will produce 200 more Burana self-propelled artillery systems. The systems use a Mercedes-Benz chassis and are designed to greatly boost Ukraine's mobile artillery capabilities. The project volume is around $815 million. Germany is manufacturing the chassis, and Ukraine is producing the gun. The security service of Ukraine's Special Unit Alpha carried out a targeted strike on Russian Shadow Fleet tankers in the Mediterranean Sea. Ukrainian sources say the operation used precise airdrops, as shown in this video. At the time of the attack, the ship was unloaded, so there was no immediate environmental risk. So just like with the recent attacks on ships of the Shadow Fleet in the Black Sea, Ukrainians say the tanker was badly damaged and is now inoperable. However, the overall damage that can be seen in the video seems to be limited. It shouldn't be that severe, but it could take several weeks until the affected systems on the upper deck are repaired. The incident is therefore directed against the Russian Shadow Fleet, which Moscow uses to circumvent sanctions for transporting energy products. But that's not all. The Ukrainian Security Service has once again attacked a Russian offshore oil platform in the Caspian Sea. This is the fourth confirmed attack on energy facilities in the region, and the third platform to be specifically hit. The target of the most recent strike was a drilling installation in the Rakustechnoye field, named Valery Greifer. The facility is part of Russia's offshore Caspian Sea infrastructure for developing oil and gas reserves. This attack shows Ukraine's ongoing strategy to target Russian energy and production infrastructure, even far from the front lines. The repeated attacks on such facilities mainly show that, from the Russian perspective, this region is no longer a safe retreat or production area. However, the operational significance lies less in the immediate destruction of individual platforms and more in the ongoing disruption of production processes, insurability, operational safety, and above all, and I believe this is the most important, the investment logic of Russian energy projects. Because, as suggested before, they want to keep promoting such projects with the Americans after the war, and also that American investors are already putting money into this. But they won't do that if Ukraine keeps attacking these things and keeps lowering their value. The battle for Ulaipole continues. The Russians have now reached the eastern outskirts of the city after recently trying to bypass them. At the same time, there are also the first images of a Russian soldier waving a Russian flag over his head on the northern access road. In my view, The Russians control 3 of the town's 4 entrances, leaving only the western access for the Ukrainians. There isn't much more territorial gain today. The war is tough. Ukrainians are mostly defending, while Russians attack without much progress. And I don't need to report on every line of trees they capture each day. As always, we want to keep it short and concise. Australia has delivered the last 12 of the 49 promised Abrams tanks to Ukraine. The Australian delivery package is now complete. However, the Ukrainian armed forces must adapt the tanks to current combat conditions. This includes, in particular, additional protective measures against drones, adjustments to sensors and communications, as well as modifications for better integration into the Ukrainian command and reconnaissance system. Only after these upgrades could the Abrams tanks reach their full potential under today's operational conditions. Reports of about 10,000 Indian workers arriving in Russia should be viewed in light of a major labor shortage. Mobilization, heavy losses, and war economy expansion have created major civilian sector gaps that Moscow is increasingly filling with labor migration. In this context, foreign workers primarily serve to stabilize construction, industry, logistics, and services in the hinterland in order to free up Russian workers for other areas. At the same time, however, there is a problematic gray area. In recent months, several incidents have been reported in which Indian nationals were lured to Russia by private intermediaries under false promises. Their documents were lost and they were subsequently forced into military-related activities or even taken straight to the front. Currently, there's no evidence that regular recruits are directly sent to the front. The risk mainly arises where recruitments take place. In Turkey, a Russian reconnaissance drone of the Orlan 10 type crashed in a rural area near Izmit, about 80 kilometers from Istanbul. The incident occurred outside an active combat zone. It attracted considerable attention. Turkish authorities have launched an investigation to determine the origin, flight path, and cause of the crash. Militarily, the incident is notable since the Orlan 10 typically serves for tactical reconnaissance, target designation, and battlefield surveillance. Such a deep penetration flight, so far off course or simply a loss of control, is far outside Ukraine. An event that naturally raises many questions. Was it a navigation error, which I can't believe, technical malfunctions, or perhaps the result of external influences? The crash is politically sensitive due to its closeness to a NATO country, but it was only a reconnaissance drone. It's possible that the Russians also tried to gather intelligence here, specifically in Turkey, but of course you can't answer that definitively, and the Russians won't answer that either. A special thanks, as always, goes to the Al Gore crew Hanar members, and especially to Lieutenant Colonel Rennecke, Robert Ziller, and Dietrich. And with that, I thank you for listening. Subscribe, like, comment, and see you in the next report.